All right, guys. Today we got a special guest in the house. I mean, this man is a legend and comes from music royalty, five-time Grammy Award-winning producer. I'm talking about the one and only Focus.
How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing today?
I'm blessed, man. I'm good. Thank you
Man,
for being patient with me, man. We were having camera issues. It's crazy.
man, I'm just so grateful to have you here. I know you don't do interviews that often, so I feel blessed to get any of your time.
I
With
appreciate
my
it.
interviews, I like to cover things in chronological order so people can really know where you came from, who you are, and how you got to where you are today.
Okay.
So you're originally from New York, right?
Yes, sir. This hat, literally, I got it at a store, and when I saw it, I fell in love with it because that's literally my life. Like I'm from New York, and I ended up in LA. So yeah,
Which part of New York?
I was born in Manhattan. We've lived as my family. We lived from Brooklyn all the way over to Stamford, Connecticut. So, it was Brooklyn, Bronx, a little stint in Jersey, uh, Fort Lee, New Jersey, and then Stamford, Connecticut is where I did most of my growing up.
So until what age until you moved to New Jersey?
That's a good question. I was in first, first going into second grade. So I had to be like, 6, 7 around there.
Right. And then how long
Yeah.
in New Jersey before you moved to Stanford?
When we moved to Stamford, Connecticut, I was 8 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So we were only there for a couple of years.
Got you. Okay. And then your father, he co-founded the legendary group Chic, right? And he's been considered like one of the greatest bass players of all time.
Yeah, yeah. That's him and his partner Nile Rodgers. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. So your father was originally from North Carolina, but he grew up
Yes.
in Brooklyn.
Greenville. Yeah. And he grew up in the Bronx, and that's where he met my mom.
So what your mom is from Brooklyn?
My mom, yeah. My mom is from New York, and my grandmother used to live in Brooklyn. My aunt still lives in Brooklyn. It's crazy. So yeah, that's really where my family is.
That's dope. What did your mom do for work?
My mother was a stay-at-home mother as long as I knew. Prior to that, when she
She
when
was
she
dealing
met
with
my
all you
father,
guys, so that
yeah,
was a full-time
exactly.
job in itself.
Yes, there was 6 of us, and then my cousin used to live with us as well. So she was, rearing 7 kids. But when she met my father, I believe she was a waitress in the nightclub that he used to play in. I believe that's the story.
Wow, so you grew up with five siblings and a cousin in the household.
Yeah, yeah, I was the oldest.
What was that like with so many people in the house at one time?
It was creative. I'm sure for my mother, it was chaotic. My family back then, my mother was the nucleus of our family, and it was very easy to try to pigeonhole us as the normal family that doesn't like being around each other, but we loved being around each other. We're very affectionate, and my mother just, we were a very close knit family. So there's some of my best friends when I was younger were my brothers and sisters and my cousins. So
Hmm. And then what age did you start showing interest in music because like you were surrounded by so much of it at an early age?
interest in it. I hate saying it because I think a lot of pop singers and R&B singers want to talk about when they were 4, but I actually do have memories of when I was 3 and 4, and I was very intrigued with my father's 45 collection. One of the first things my grandfather built me was my own little uh, record player. He just put a wooden spindle on a metal box, and I used to be able to spin 45s on it, but it never made no noise. But I was just, that was my favorite toy. But when I was 6 years old, I started kind of tinkering with music, and when I was eight, like around six, seven, eight, that's when I wrote my first song, and it was a piece. It was horrible. I still remember it to this day, but I
Can you
knew
sing it
that
for us?
nope, but no, but
But was it like
it
R&B or what kind of style, kind of
no,
genre?
it was literally I was using the C major chords, and I was just super happy that I could play these chords in a progression and sing at the same time. And my song was called "Everybody Loves Me." I was 6 or 7 years old, and I just wrote this song, and my mother and my aunts, and they would always want me to sing it because I would just sing it with all the passion, and my brothers and sisters would join in and all that. But then when I got to 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be like my father. I wanted to be a producer. So,
Mm.
everything kind of, so I wanted to be a little bit more serious about it.
What was the first instrument that you learned how to play?
The first instrument that was put in front of me was drums. I wanted to be like Tony Thompson. Of course, you're going to want to be like the things that you know. And Tony was, a hero of mine. And the first kit that I got was from Tony. It was a chrome Yamaha kit. Um, he gave me the floor tom and two toms, kick, snare, hat, and two cymbals. And I was in love. Like that was the first thing that I had in my house. And then that was what I played in school. Throughout school, I played the drums for the middle, upper, and lower school bands.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, because you knew that you wanted to do music at such a young age, were you really into being a student at all, or your focus was just all on music?
Yeah, it was bad. I really was one track minded, and I knew I could do the work. My mother used to, she would express her disappointment in the fact that I would just kind of let this stuff lag off because my first semester I would, pull in A's and it would be easy. It was easy work, but then I would just really want to do music, and I didn't care about sports. I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted to do music, and that happened literally until I graduated.
So, you're born in 1972, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, before the official formation of hip hop, right?
hmm
Now, walking the streets of New York or Connecticut, what did you see as a child at that time?
Well, walking the streets in New York, I was always with my parents, so they made
Mhm.
sure I was protected. I didn't see much.
But did you see
But
like the park jams going on?
no, that's what I'm saying. My father really did not want us around a lot of that. I can give you some really cool backstories. My uncles, because of, my father and our musical lineage, my uncles used to DJ parties in the Bronx. And my uncle Randy was mean. Like they used to have parties, and I remember specifically this one party where he had two um, 12 inches of good times, and he had them pretty early because it was my dad. That was his brother, so he was killing that party, and he was mixing between the breaks, and I was super proud. My uncle he was super cool. And he had a huge collection. My uncle Frank had a huge collection of records. So it's all I've ever known. Like literally, it was vinyl everywhere.
Right. And you grew up pretty much like in the 80s during the crack era during that time. Now you said that your parents sheltered you from that,
Yeah.
but did you get to see like anything on the street, or like how do you think that influenced you as a person growing up?
Yeah, I was heavily influenced by music, but as far as what was going on in the streets and in the times, I don't know, I knew about it. I just wasn't really directly affected by it. You know, my mother was heavily religious. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, so a lot of the sheltering came from that. And then my dad sheltered us as a family. He didn't want us to really get into that. You know, my dad came up in the times of drugs, sex, and rock and roll. You know what I'm saying? And so he had to fight his own demons and his addictive traits. And you know, my mom came up in those times as well, but she went a whole different route, and she used the Bible and what she believed in her faith to fight her demons. But we all had those, like that addictive trait. So my dad didn't want me around that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it was very easy, you know, as I'm older now, I can understand why, you know, because it's very easy to trip into it and stay in it and, you know, become a way of life.
And so prior to you pursuing music as a profession, were you pretty much like a straight edge kid? Like you stayed away from everything. You were just really like focused on music and religion growing up?
That was it. That was it. I literally was I was going to school, whatever I had to do at school, it was done, and then go home, make music, or we would, you know, we'd be someplace worshiping, you know, and that really was my life for a long time until um, my mother politely asked me to leave the house at 19, and and I, you know, I started my real journey um, into this music thing from then.
Hmm. So there's been a big debate, and I would love your take on it because of your music knowledge and history and everything, you know. But there's this debate about hip hop being created mainly by foundational Black Americans or 50-50 by Blacks and Latinos. What is your take on that?
I I hate the fact that we have to keep putting color in it. But we can go back as far as Aztecs, as far as Africans, as far as tribal music. We're talking about beats and chants. So what we're doing is chanting over rhythms. We're talking over rhythms. We're putting words over rhythms. This was being done since the beginning of time. It doesn't matter what tribe did it. It's Hawaiians do it. Like it's still to this day. It's rhythmic talk. It's indicative of culture and what's going on around them. So where it began with the beginning of music. I don't I you know, I think that when we started making genres and making it uh important to be the king of something or the starter of something or the first of something, um, everybody keeps negating the fact that music has been here long before us. There's been melody, there's been, you know, worship and you know, I don't get into the you know debates about whatever it is. It's here now and I love doing it, you know. I just love
Right.
doing it, you know.
So your take on it's more of like there's like no idea is original. Basically, like it all came from somewhere to influence what it is today.
That's the best way to put it. And I think that you know, there's nothing new under the sun. There are nuances of new, but there's nothing new under the sun. Melody and beats, melody and rhythms, different time structures. There's only 12 keys on a piano. So it's not really much you're doing new. You're just turning around and presenting it with new nuances. That's it. So, you know, if somebody was doing a folklore and they were doing it to a drum, wouldn't that feel like rap in those days? You know what I'm saying? And you're telling a story and the story rhymes, limericks, things like that. Like it's really where we started, like storytelling. If you listen to the early raps, it was storytelling with rhythms.
But can you understand kind of like I guess from the perspective of foundational Black Americans where they feel like so many genres have been stolen from Black Americans and taken over and almost like whitewashed that it's there's a level of sensitivity when other people try to take credit for the creation of hip hop or rock and roll or other genres.
I definitely understand it. I have a sore spot for these things as well, but then at the same time, those arguments and those conversations without the proper knowledge, without the proper education, go nowhere. So if we're sitting here, we're always butthurt, and we're always talking from this point in time that what the late 80s, the late 70s, that you want to talk about the start of this music when it goes way back, way back. And if nothing else, let's have an educated conversation about it. Okay, if you feel that it came from your people and you feel like this, that, and the third, blah blah blah, well then let's go back. Let's talk about some documented things, and let's have a structured conversation. I'm with that. I don't need to yell and scream and boast about something that I wasn't there at the beginning of hip hop. I'm part of it now, and I'm glad that I'm here. And I'm proud to be a part of what I'm a part of. And I'm proud that my legacy is etched in stone with it. You know what I'm saying? So nobody could take that away. But when it does come to the greater talk, we need to be more educated on both sides.
Agreed. Agreed. In 1996, your father was in Tokyo touring and he fell ill and ended up dying from pneumonia. Do you
Yeah.
remember where you were when you got the news and what was that time like for you?
I remember it vividly. Um, this was when I lived with my son's mother uh, in Hollywood. And I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and I don't play around with this story much, so you're the first to ever hear it. I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard. I used to live a block up Highland, and I'm walking back to my house, and a fortune teller ran out of her space and says, "Something bad is about to happen to you. Something bad. You're walking around with a lot of black and this and that." And I looked at her, and I kept walking, and I get home, and my brother Mark called me at my home, and he goes, "Burn." And I'm like, "What's up, man?" And he goes, "Hold on." And he clicks the line, and then he clicks back and he goes, "I'm sorry, man. I think dad is dead. Dad just died." And I I don't even know what happened after that. I think it was a bunch of drinking. But unfortunately, me and my father, prior to him passing away, we only had one conversation. And that was we were trying to mend our relationship because me and him really had a tumultuous relationship because I went after my dreams of music and he really didn't want me to do it. So we had one conversation. We were supposed to talk when he got back to the States and get back together and get things right. And next thing I know, he was dead.
I'm sorry for your loss, man. I'm sure
Appreciate it.
that he was like your greatest musical influence, right?
1,000%.
I know that like early on, like your first biggest check was because you programmed the drums on one of his records, right?
Yes.
And how did you guys bond over music?
I wish there was a bond. It was a supply and demand
Mm,
situation. He needed to lock in these drums that Tony laid for. It was a song called. Well, they did a rendition of "Let's Get It On," the group Power Station, and my father wasn't really happy with the complete drum track, and he wanted me to grab spots that worked and then program it. So it still was live. It was still Tony Thompson, but it was more locked into pocket. And that's all I really did. And my father, he was like very stern, and he was tired of me kind of falling on my face and then going to him with my hand out like that. "I need help. I need help. I need help." He said, "It's time for you to help yourself. I have this job. if you can do it, there is a pay for it. Like there's money in it. And we showed up. At the time, I was running around with this cat out here, and he had a SP12, and we went over there and we sampled the drums, and that was my first check. That was the first money I ever made to get my own apartment and you know get things going.
So he taught you a really hard lesson early on in that by helping you find your way. You know, it's interesting when you say that you guys had a tumultuous relationship because I know that you had mentioned in the past, like you were trying to run towards the industry and he was pulling you back because he knew the ins and outs of it. And about 14 years ago, you uploaded this clip onto YouTube of your dad talking about you working in the basement as a kid, working on rap music. And he
Right.
said he would never discourage you, but he didn't want to encourage you to go into the music industry either. And he would prefer that you didn't because he knew
Yes.
what you were going to experience by doing that.
Yes. Yes.
And it's he was right in the sense that it foreshadowed that you were going to experience some difficult times because you did throughout your
Yeah.
career, right?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what people my age call paying dues. It,
Now I know you were also like searching for your father's approval. Like you felt like if he said you did a good job on your music, that's like kind of like what you always wanted, right?
1,000%.
Did you ever get to receive that from him?
No, no. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times in some previous interviews that literally I'm still chasing that dragon. Um, I know I'm not going to get it, because it was a way that I wanted it. I wanted my father to be super proud. You know, after the Grammys, after locking in with one of the greatest to ever do it, Dr. Dre, and having the run that I had, and I did it with a name that, I wasn't just an industry brat. I wasn't walking into places and saying Bernard Edwards Jr. I was saying focus, and to show him that I was able to establish myself and really become a formidable producer and musician and composer. Um, I just wanted my dad to if he would have just looked at me and been like, that would have been enough. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like he didn't even have to give me the words. That would have been everything to me. And I think the best thing that did happen prior to my father passing, I had my first son, his first grandchild, and I got to get him a picture of his grandson. And the singer of the group, Silva Logan Sharp, at the time when she was on tour with them, she said my father was parading around showing his first son, his grandson, Christopher. And she said he kept the picture in his breast pocket in his jacket. And that meant everything to me. That was a good salve for this open wound, you know?
Right. I think everyone can agree that with everything that you've contributed to music, that he's definitely looking down on you and really proud of you, man.
I appreciate that. I really do. I do.
Did you ever get over like that? You said the lady ran out and told you something was going to happen. Like, I'm sure at that moment you were like, okay, you're crazy or something like that, like, but
Yeah, of
like
course.
when it
Yeah.
really happened, you like, I'm pretty sure that's something that you might think about from time to time, like, what the hell, right?
Well, like I said, it's just forever etched in my mind. There's never going to be a moment where I don't remember that.
Right.
Um, I think that I don't pull it up unless I have to speak about the actual incident, or talk about my father's death. Because right after that, I tried to numb myself the best I could. There was a lot of drinking and a lot of stupidity, just trying to cope. And I didn't do well. You know what I'm saying? I didn't cope with that well. And, then my mother died in 2001. So no matter what, it really was, um, just a season. I can't even call it a season of loss, but it was just a lot of loss. My grandparents, and it was just a lot of loss in my family. So um, I don't know if I really just keep that in the forefront of my mind, but it definitely is. Anytime we talk about, if anybody asks me about that, that's the first thing that comes up. Yeah, you're right. It's like an anchor of it. Yeah.
So, what year is it that you end up meeting Dre?
I met Dre. All right, so I met Dre when I was working with Eric B from Eric B and Rakim. Eric B was the president of Street Life Records, and I was signed there as an artist. And Eric, he found out I was producing and rapping. He was like, "Man, you're doing these beats. I have opportunities." And one of the opportunities that he had was at Aftermath. When Dre was building Aftermath, and he had this artist named RC, and it was like Eve of Destruction and all this stuff. Like, it was really early on. And so
What
Eric
year
had
is
a
this?
this man.
98,
I'm
99?
thinking 98, 99, 2000. Like, yeah, right around there. Yeah. But I wasn't his producer. I wasn't Dre's producer. I was working with Eric B. So Eric brought me in and I did some work with RC. And that was my first time meeting Dre. But then as a standalone producer, I was introduced to him mid 2001, late 2001, something like that. And that's when I signed.
Right, because that was around the time that you were working with Dax, right? And you were
Yes.
working on the demo for him,
Yeah.
and that's how you ended up on the Wash soundtrack with his
Yes.
song.
Yes. 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 That's literally the first instance of my Aftermath history.
And his interesting fact is like during that time you were managing Omar Gooding's or no, you were working with Omar Gooding's rap group, right?
Oh yeah, I was working with him. Yeah, I never met him. Yeah. So yeah, me and O were locked in really tough. That was my guy.
So what was your reaction when you like your first impression of Dre though? Like were you like nervous?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I forgot what restaurant we met. It might have been I know it was on Ventura. I don't remember what restaurant it was, but the way, because Mike Lynn at the time was the A&R, and R, and Mike Lynn was the one that brought me to meet Dre. And it was so funny because I walked in and Dre's back was to the door and it was dark. And it was almost like I felt like I was meeting the Godfather. You know what I'm saying? There weren't a lot of people there. And it was really like I was already like gassed to meet him, but I was scared, man. I was scared out of my mind. And so I sat at the table and he just leaned back and was like, "Yeah, so what's up?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to put this thing together. And if you're ready to work and this and that. And for some reason, all the fear jumped when the moment he said, "Are you ready to work?" All the fear went out of me. And I looked him in his face and I was like, "I'm ready right now." He's
Mm.
like, "Say less." And then he put me in the studio and we've been rocking pretty much ever since.
Focus, you telling me you didn't hit him with a hell yeah.
No, hell no. Not
One of
one
Dre's hell
time.
yeahs.
Nah. It's funny because you know what? When we did start getting closer as family, because I look at him as my big brother, mentor and teacher. And so when we started getting closer, me and all the guys in the ICU, we always joke with him about this hell yeah. And he was like, "Man, I only said it one time. Why is everybody thinking, you know what I'm saying?" So, but it's it's funny because that's the thing that sticks with him. That hell yeah,
Right.
it's a rap. Yeah.
But the thing with Dre, I've heard you say before, is that like he never wanted to make you into a mini Dre or
Oh
anything
no.
like that. Like he liked the way that you attack the music between like bridging the East Coast and West Coast, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And he told me like he was my early submissions to him used to frustrate him. and the conversation happened in real time when I was working, and he came in and was like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you trying to be me? You think that that's what I want?" He was like, I don't want you to give me what you think I want." He was like, "I hired you because of you. I need you to show up the best you could be. I don't need you to be mini me. I don't need that. I do me already. I'm good." And when he said that, I was like, "Oh, say less, say less, bro." It was such an eye opening experience because I really was going in and putting the walls and floors and ceilings as close as possible. It was almost claustrophobic. I just was creating stuff out of memory instead of feeling it. So
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like I once he turned around and he blew the room open. It was just like, oh, bet. I'm just gonna create then. I'm gonna use everything that I've ever learned from my father and everything I've ever learned in the East Coast and everything I ever learned in the South when I was in Atlanta. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna put all of it in my music, and that's what I did.
Because what was it like the first year and a half that you tried to give him Dre sounding type of beats, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I wasn't on anything. I'm serious. I'm serious. There was nothing cutting through. Like my first record, even Riding High, if you listen to Riding High, that wasn't really my sound. That was how I interpreted the West sounded. So at that time, I'm like, oh man, they use a lot of Moogie sounds, a lot of resi synths, and the drums are very sparse and you know what I'm saying? So I'm like interpreting their sound, Battle Cat, DJ Quick, Dr. Dre, Daz, Superfly, like people that I was just like, man, they are bad. You know what I'm saying? Sir Jenks, like all of these guys that I learned about when I came out here, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna make it sound like them, but I still got to do it my way. And it was just my interpretation. But when Dre told me that I didn't have to, just do you, it changed my life, bro. It changed my life.
So shortly after this time, 50 signs to Shady Aftermath, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that time period like when 50 first got signed? Like, have you ever seen anything like that much hype before?
Yeah, I was when I got there, Aftermath was a machine, bro. I
Mhm.
mean, on the production side, we had Battle Cat, High Tech, DJ Khalil, Denon Porter, um, and I know I'm missing names. Please don't kill me, guys. But we had a roster, and I was one of those guys. And we had Eminem. We had a full roster of artists coming in and out of Aftermath. So when 50 got there, 50 was a machine himself. So it's like when you really start to see a machine and another machine working together, it's probably the most inspired I've ever been in my life. And I knew I
Wow.
was where I was supposed to be. I knew that Aftermath was where I was supposed to be. And it's funny because everybody could look it up in my other interviews. I'm from New York. So I'm like, man, of course I wanted to be a hitman. Of course I wanted to be part of a team that I knew. But when I came out here and I met Dre and Battle Cat took me under his wing and freaking Rick Rock and all like these are guys that did not have to give me love. And they
Mhm.
showed me love and allowed me to be myself. I was like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be.
What was your first impression when you met 50?
It was literally him running in to play Dre in the club and he ran out. It was literally that was it. It was literally a handshake. Like I don't think me and 50 have had more than two or three words to say to each other. Like he
Oh, okay.
literally is on the go. He's going. And I've done, when he did the game, disc record. I'm not rich. I'm
Right, we're
still
gonna get into
lying.
that. We're
Yeah,
gonna get into that. But
yeah.
with, when he played in the club, right?
Hmm.
Like, what was the room's reaction to that? Everybody knew it was a hit.
Oh, everybody knew what it was. Everybody knew what it was. I mean, 50 is probably one of the best sales people I know of what he sells. Like he's going to make the world believe it, not just you, the entire world. And he knew what he had. He knew what it was. So Dre just was like, if we're gonna do this, man, let me just make it sound right and this and that. And at those times, man, it just if you couldn't if you couldn't hold on to the win, man, because 50 was the win, bro. You could not put a net on him or nothing. Like 50 was gone, and that was it. So, but I do appreciate that because Dre is a perfectionist, and sometimes you do have to show him that what we're doing is perfect for the time.
Because that beat was a what for D12 originally, the in the club beat.
That's a good question. I don't know. That I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
I'd be lying. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you produce any records for that album that didn't make it, or try to submit some records for that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was for. No, it wasn't for Get Rich or Die Trying. It was for the next record.
Oh, the
What was it?
massacre.
So the Massacre, yeah. So I sent 50 some records, and one of the records that he cut was called Maybe We Crazy. And he had the beats, and like you said, we're gonna talk about it, but there was a couple of things that he did, but Maybe We Crazy. I was really thinking I was gonna get on this next 50 album, and it didn't make it. It didn't make the cut.
That would have been a crazy check too, because that
Mm,
album was out of
yeah.
here.
Yeah. You know what? And it's funny because I wasn't looking for the check, but I really wanted to show Dre that he didn't make a mistake by signing me. I wanted to be the sharpest tool in the tool shed, and I just wanted to be on everyone's album.
Right. So in 2005, you also produced on Tony Yayo's album, Thoughts of a Predicate Felon, right? You did 3 records off of that.
Yes, sir.
Were those records done in person in the studio together, or you just had a beat CD that he chose 3 records off of?
It was a beat CD. Shaw Money XL, that's my bro. And
Yo, Sean
Shaw
Menny,
was
he does not get the props he deserves too.
Oh man, well, you know what? The funny thing about it is he does where it matters, and the people that know. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Shah, but Shah was the one that called me and was like, "Look, send me some beats. I'm working with Yayo. I'll play them for him. I'm gonna get it directly to him." And I got to come in and help, you know, with the mix of my records, but Tony cut those records quick. It was fast, and to hear the world kind of respond to um, us coming together was really dope. I used to work overseas, and I went to France, and I couldn't understand anybody. But the moment that they found out I produced "Live by the Gun," everybody was saying the lyrics in English and telling me how much they loved the record, but I couldn't understand anything past that. But they would talk about "Live by the Gun." "Live by the Gun" was one of my biggest records overseas.
And what was it? What was it like interacting with Yayo? Or you didn't get to interact with him much because
Oh no, Yayo yeah, it was all love. Yayo was dope. Back in the day, I locked in with Young Buck. I did a record with him that didn't make it on his album, unfortunately. But I locked in with him, and this was all because of Sean Money. I never got to work with Lloyd Banks, but Banks was always cool. You know what I'm saying? So I've spoken to them. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And but 50 was the motor. You know what I'm saying? He
right.
was he was on the go. He was the one running the whole show. So it was what it was.
Yeah, man, Shaw Money had such a big part in building that empire too, especially
Yeah,
the record label part, and I think that he slept on as a producer though too, because his beats is knocking too.
yeah, yeah. I don't think I think that the part. I guess let's clarify this. He slept on it by the public.
Right.
But those, you know what I'm saying? Like those that know. And I had to learn that myself because even in my career, I'm like, man, people don't know. And my boy was like, yo, but the people that need to know, no,
Hmm.
they know who you are. And I'm like, okay. So, it's just clarification. That's it. But yeah,
Right.
you're right. You're right.
So then the documentary, right? Great Game
Yes,
drops the
sir.
documentary. You produced the song Where I'm From on there. The
Yes, sir.
original version had Dr. Dre. Why was he taken off of that record?
He took himself off. We didn't take him off. Dre took himself off of that. That record, that was, man, I loved his reaction. When I made that beat, it was a little bit slower, but when I made that beat, he said that he drove around with it for a while. It was a minute. And he was really thinking about what he could do with it. He was thinking about it for himself. We were heavily working on Detox. And so he was thinking about it for himself. And then, Game's project just started moving really fast. 50 was cutting these hooks and everything was just moving really fast. And so Dre was like, I like this record for Game. And so the original, yeah, it was supposed to be him and Game. Dre told me speed it up. He had Nate Dogg come in, Big Tank. Thornton came and he was doing the scratches on it. Like everything started coming together real quick.
But you saw it in
And
person being
yeah,
formed?
I was there. I was
Oh,
there.
okay.
And then all of a sudden, right before the album was about to come out, Dre took his verse off. He's like,
Wow.
yeah, nah. I don't know what it was. I don't remember if it was his voice or what he said or whatever, but he took his voice off. And I was gassed because I'm like, man, this is the first record he's gonna have since 2001. And I'm like, oh my God, it's my beat. You know what I'm saying? But nah, didn't go like that.
In an interview with Double XL, you said that you wish they had pushed it a little bit more because it was one of the last records with Nate Dogg on it, right? So
Yeah.
it was like a little bit more emotional for you. Um, what did you mean by that? That pushed it a little more?
Well, I found out that there's a 12-inch that actually was serviced to radio with Where I'm From on the B side. So
Oh, wow.
there was a possibility that that could have been a leak record or a single or whatever. And the response to the record is huge. Again, these are, this is part of the things that are etched in stone for me as an Aftermath producer. So when I play that record, the world loves it. But I'm like, okay, why didn't we put any gas behind it? And I think
Mhm.
that, me having those conversations before was me just trying to again show Dre like, man, you didn't mess up by signing me. I really can hold my own, and you know what I'm saying. But
Right.
I think that the whole thing about Game 50 the list goes on with the artists is the lock in with Dre. They want to hear the partnership with Dre, and I'm one of Dre's stalwart students and producers and soldiers, and I had to stay out the way. Like I had to get out of my emotions. I'm like, yo, I'm definitely part of things, and I'm happy to be here. It's just I'm super blessed to be here.
Did you have a close relationship with Nate Dogg?
No, no, I met him maybe twice. Yeah, maybe
But
twice.
that your song being one of the last ones that he was on meant a lot because of just like his legendary status.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that was the hook God. Like it literally, like
Right.
you know what I'm saying? The
I don't.
moment
Yeah,
that Nate
to
Dogg's
this
on it,
day,
it's a
I don't
wrap.
think anybody
Yeah.
can rival him, man. It's just like he could sing the ABCs and make that catchy. You know what
And
I
and
mean?
there it is. No, you're
Like,
absolutely right. And that's what he's known for. The moment that Nate Dogg gets on it, it's going through the roof. So
right.
yeah, it was an honor with that.
Did you produce any other songs for that album that didn't end up making it for the documentary?
I was never producing for the album. I was just working with Game. So
Gotcha.
Game and I were working together. We did a song called Legends, which he leaked on some mixtapes, and the title is now Wake the Dead. We did a song with Antonio, who was a singer, R&B artist that was signed to Aftermath, and it was a song called DJ. So me and Game like were literally just working. Like I would make beats and game would go in. Like I did a record called Here We Go, that, you know, had a Dre verse on it. And, you know, unfortunately that was leaked as well. But, you know, these were things that we were doing early on. And the one that, you know, caught wind was Where I'm From.
What was the aura at Aftermath when 50 and Game started having their issues?
Aftermath is Switzerland, bro. Aftermath is Switzerland. I mean, um, we all can have our opinions. But when it comes down to a family, you don't stand in between brothers. You don't stand in between siblings. You don't stand in between rivals. You don't stand in between that. If right is right and wrong is wrong, then you stand on the side that you want to. If you want to stand on the side of right, then you stand on the side of right. But with everybody thinking they're right, you have to let grown men be grown men. Um, that's why, you know, and can we get into the diss record now?
Yeah. But because I know that at the time, Dre was like, I don't want to be involved in this, right? Like
It's
you
We're
guys, like he
Switzerland,
stepped
bro.
away from
Yeah.
it. Like he didn't want nothing to do with it.
1,000%. And I hated the fact that my music was used in it. You know what I'm saying? And it just happened to be on a CD. And so, you know, when 50 did the diss record and used my music, it looked like I picked a side. And so I went to Dre.
What song was that he used your beat for?
It was called I'm Not Rich, I'm Still Lying.
This is the one where he in the beginning he said that, I'd like to welcome y'all to watch the movie starring Game.
Yes.
It's called Not Rich Still Lying.
Yeah.
And then at the
Yes.
end he goes, well, your brother says you were
Yeah.
never in a game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
It's that song.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I know that you spoke about this maybe like one time before, but people in the comments were like, wait, what song did he? Because 50 hasn't really addressed him that many times on a record, right? So people were like, what
Yeah.
song was he talking about that he produced? You know, because
Yeah.
you
It's
never
called
really said it. Wow.
Yeah, it's called I'm Not Rich, I'm Still Lying. And it was on a Who Kid record.
Mm-hmm.
Who Kid mixtape, yeah. Yeah. So I went to Dre and was like, bro, I don't want to be in this. I didn't ask to be in this. Why is my music floating around this and that? And he was like, yo, he put me on the phone with Fifth and you know, Fifth was like, bro, I'm not trying to put anybody anywhere they don't want to be. And so 50 he showed up for me. I did a mixtape and he showed up for me and gave me a shout out and he allowed me to use Maybe We Crazy on my mixtape. And he was like, you know, I apologize. Like I wasn't trying to put you in a place where you didn't want to be. And I just didn't want to be between them. You know what I'm saying? I have
Right.
the same respect for both men. You know what I'm saying? I'm a producer. So I'm like, you didn't do anything to me and he didn't do anything to me. So don't put me in that.
Right.
Like if Game asked me at the time to do something, I'm gonna do something with him. And if Fifth asked me, I would do something with him. But if y'all gonna do something against each other, I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Did you witness the work that 50 put into the documentary? Like as far as like what he contributed?
Oh yeah, yeah, yes.
So was it true that Aftermath was really going to drop Game before 50 stepped in?
I don't know about dropping. I just know that when 50 and Game locked in, I think that it was the same thing when 50 and M locked in. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can make all this music, but it has to make sense. And I think that Eminem coming in with his vision and Dre having his vision made G Unit. It all made sense. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just Shady and it wasn't just Aftermath and it wasn't just G Unit. Like I believe that it all made sense. So for Game to turn around and be a G Unit Aftermath artist, it made sense. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Even when Game was what the world would look at his wildest, or you know what I'm saying, like, you know, he claiming blood and all that other stuff. It's like, man, it's at those times you don't want to just be standing front line by yourself. So it's good to have a unit around you or a good team, and I think that just showed a good camaraderie, and it just made sense. It made sense at those times.
I think the fans were so disappointed when that situation happened because it was looking like such a strong unit together, right? Like having so
thousand
many
percent.
different artists. You have the New York side, you got Buck down south, you got, you know, Game over there on the West Coast. It was, man, it's just like when it goes to really show you that like when like egos kind of get involved, like things really start to create bigger issues than they really need to be.
Pride is a mug. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So in 2009, you produced the song Lyrical Murderers for Slaughterhouse off their self titled debut album, right? Now,
Mhm.
how did that come about?
It literally was the beat that I did. I think I did that beat in Atlanta. I don't even think I did it on the West Coast. I just did it and it was on my beat tape. And shout out to Royce and Crooked. Those are my guys, those are my brothers, and I don't remember who had the CD. But that was like pretty much the first beat on the CD. And they cut the record, and I just got a call from Royce, and he was like, "Man, I think we're gonna use this. Are you cool with it?" I'm like, "Man, are you crazy? Go ahead, go for it." Like I thought that they were doing like a mixtape kind of thing, but he was like, "Nah, we're actually doing an album. Like this is real. Like we're going for it." And so I was like, "Do it, do it." I'm like, I wish I would have had more with them. You know what I'm saying? Because then I locked in with Joel when he came over to Aftermath. Shout out to him. And I met Joe a couple of times, but my three guys from that group were Royce, Crooked, and Joel.
Right, because you had individual relationships with all of them, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What year
Like
was that
I have
Joel?
records. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, what year was that Joel was over at Aftermath? That was like
Oh my God.
2001 or something.
No, 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 no. I don't know if it was even that early. Was it that early?
I think it was before 50, right?
No.
It
Joel
was
wasn't before
after.
50.
It was
It was
after.
after.
Okay,
Yeah, that was
man,
after. You got to look at the year of Slaughterhouse.
because that record came out in 2009. Lyrical
Right.
Murderers, right?
So it was before Slaughterhouse.
Yeah, yeah. So it had to be like probably like 2005 or something like that, then, huh?
I'm believing so.
Yeah.
I would have to do my research on that. But yeah, that's what I was about to say. I have records that we actually cut, me and Joel, that were, crazy, but they never saw the light of day.
You know, it's crazy because that record, Lyrical Murderers, that was my favorite record off of that album. And I never knew that you produced it, right? But I remember
Oh wow.
meeting Slaughterhouse at one of their shows, and I was talking to Royce by the bar. I was like, man, that record, Lyrical Murders, I was like, your verse on that is crazy. You know, like I'm talking to him, I'm like the technician really needs to hear what I think, but I'm just like, man,
Right,
that record is ridiculous, you know?
right.
So while
That's
I'm
dope.
preparing for this interview, and I'm like, yo, Focus produced that too. I'm like,
Yes,
man,
sir.
this is crazy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was fun.
In 2010, you put out this project called Pay Homage, right? Just
Yeah.
7 records. And it's ridiculous. Like the concept of it, of you, each different song is paying homage to a different artist or producer, and you have all these legendary rappers rapping on it and paying homage to that person, which I just think that was such an amazing idea. Like, how did you come up with that idea?
I was sitting at my home. This is back when I lived in Georgia, and I was talking to my boy on the phone, and I was telling him I just need something to challenge me. And I was thinking about dumbing down because I had a lot of equipment at the time, and so I made a dummy rig in an extra room in my home. I literally was using a Digio 2, MPC, and records. And I was like, I'm gonna use live instruments. I'm gonna go back to where I was because I think everything was just insurmountable at the time. It was just too much equipment, too much stuff, and I was thinking too much and all that. So, and I said, I want to go back to the fact that these are the people that actually made me who I am. So my first record, when I started doing it, was the DJ Premier one. And when I started reaching out to the people and I told them what my idea was, I want to do this pay homage thing. Um, Everybody that got on these songs did it for the love. There was no budget. This was literally like, Fonte, I want you on this. No problem. Send me the beat. Oh, wow. Okay, let me keep doing it. As it was doing it, I started looking. I'm like, man, these are all my guys. Like, these are my boys here, and they're showing up. So I was just releasing them as singles. I wasn't getting paid for it. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't use them and then get paid for it. So I just put the records out because I really wanted Premier to hear it. I wanted Pete Rock to hear it. I wanted, you know what I'm saying? And so when the records started taking off, it was great, but I never got to finish it. I wanted to put a budget behind it because I believe that the people that I was asking, I believe they deserve to be paid. And so I went after a couple of budgets, but nobody bit.
I mean, you're talking about like the artists that you had on there: Royce, Slum Village, Corrupt, Crooked Eye, J Rock, Kendrick, Razkaz, like all elite spitters on this. It was amazing, right? And you took me back when
Thank
you
you.
said the Digi 002, man. That's crazy.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
crazy. But man, I think that is so amazing that you did that because hip hop has given so many of us an ability to feed our families, right?
Yeah,
So it's not just what we get from hip hop, but how we give back. And paying homage is definitely one of the ways that we give back to the culture. So
thousand
for you
percent.
to do that, and a lot of these artists, these producers, don't make the money that these artists and producers nowadays do, right? Like because
Yeah,
they help pave the way. So for
yeah.
you to do that and to give them their flowers, I commend you so much for that. That's
Thank you
amazing.
so much. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, that goes to show you that you were working with TDE early on.
Oh yeah. If you look in J Rock's Follow Me Home,
Right.
Schoolboy Q Setbacks, like I shout out to, back in the day, Punch was locked in with Taheem Cannon, and Taheem Cannon used to, bring them my beats. And, a lot of that, Punch was my conduit. Like Punch was giving them the beats, and they were putting them on mixtapes and stuff like that. But that's how I locked in with. A matter of fact, I think I locked in with Kendrick through rapper Big Pooh.
Oh
Because the
wow.
first record that I had with Kendrick was the rapper Pooh Allude, and Kendrick bodied that, and I was like, oh my god, this kid is crazy. But that was the first time that I locked in with K Dot.
Isn't it crazy that he was J Rock's hype man, and then like for him to, you know what I mean? Like you just never know where somebody is going to end up, right? Like he's like
Yeah,
phenomenal, phenomenal
yeah,
man.
yeah, 1000%.
So going back a little bit though, in 2009 you end up leaving Aftermath, but it was a amicable split.
2008. Yeah,
2008? Oh, okay.
yeah.
So then
Mhm.
you left to work on your own company, AFAM Entertainment.
I left honestly to get my life in order. Um, you know, uh, it was a lot, and within the realms of me getting my life in order, then I started to formulate AFAM Entertainment. Yes.
So at the time, I guess that you've said in the past that you were having a harder time to juggle the family responsibilities with the work. You know,
Yeah.
man, any kind of demanding career like that when you're away from your family and your kids, and it's tough. Like you really start to see the things that you miss out on.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're kids, you used to bounce them on the knee, and then all of a sudden they feel that they're strong enough that they can bounce you around. You
Yeah.
you have to literally look yourself in the mirror and figure out what's more important. I do this for the sustenance and provisions for my kids, but I can't do it and put them in danger. They need their father. They need uh, my time more than they need the money. And so I just needed to lock back in with my family. I needed to lock back in. Back in those days, it was my faith. I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling a little bit aimless. I was drinking a lot. I just really had to stop everything. And I
Mhm.
went and from 2008 to 2013, and I just got my life wherever the trajectory was. I got it back on track.
It's tough because like when you're working so hard, it's like you're thinking, I just want to provide for my family. But then like, you know, being a parent is much more than that, right? Like you got to be there for the moments. You got to, you know, I feel like especially with kids, you know, like with sons and stuff, like you got to be that father figure. You got to help, you know, guide them through this world. It gets, you know, it gets really difficult. They need that. You
Yeah.
at that time, you also said that you started to hate music because of the business side of the industry, right?
Oh, I still do.
You still
I
do.
can't no, that's serious. Like it's I will never and that's I need to restructure that quote. I don't hate music. I love music with all my heart.
Mhm.
I hate the business. I can't stand the business. And then when you run into the people that swear to God they have your best interests at heart and the only interest that they have at heart is their own, it's like you just get jaded. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm tired of tap dancing and the buffoonery and the coonery, and I'm tired of all of it. I'm tired of it, and I need to go and make music from that passionate place. And when I left Aftermath, my phone stopped ringing. A lot of people were not messing with me, but the people that did lock in, big shout out to Sun Village, T3 and Young RJ and Illa J, they always checked on me and I was working with them. Big shout out to Little Brother. They always checked on me and I was making music with them. Like it was passion projects. And then I started realizing that I had a passion again for music
Mhm.
and I just needed to lean into that, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people they're surprised when they realize that the music business is more about business than it is music, right?
Yeah.
And that at
Yeah.
times can be like a blocker for your creativity because
1,000%.
there's just
Yeah.
so much like little things involved, politics, all these different things that make it really difficult barriers for you to be able to create what you genuinely want to create.
Yeah. Yes. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah. 1,000%. And I think that it's not even just the stuff that you want to create, but it's what needs to happen.
Mm,
And they start pushing agenda in your music and pushing these trends and things that shorten the life of your music. So it's not your music anymore. It's a commercial for their product. It's a commercial for whatever they want to push at that moment. And it got old. I want records with substance. You know what I'm saying?
right. Those are the things that are going to have that replay value, right? The music
Right.
that really connects with the people. And I know that you had said that, you know, maybe you're not the artist that is talking about drinking the lean, but if you're producing the beat for the person and you're standing next to them while they're doing that, it's just as bad, pretty much, you know?
Yeah. And I really had to stand that square for myself as well. Like I, I've been part of Aftermath when we were talking our most gangster. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, it's like, do I want to keep feeding the poison? People can say that, I'm on some hypocrite, but as a whole, it is a job. If I, an example, if I'm creating paper, but on that paper they're writing laws that turn around and outlaw black people and Jewish people and this and that, like from gathering together and things like that. Am I part of the problem? I'm literally making music, and what they interpret on the music is it cannot be my fault. And I
Mhm.
had to get from under that guilt because I kept putting myself. If I wrote it, then yes,
Right.
you can crucify me. But at the end of the day, I literally just make music.
Was it during this time that you made the health changes? Because before you were like 300 pounds, right? From eating real bad and drinking and everything, and then like you really got
Yeah.
fit after that. I mean, you lost like what 95 pounds?
I'm still. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, since wow. Yeah. Since 2008, it's almost a full 100 pounds. Yeah. I was almost
Wow.
300 pounds. I found out I was diabetic. Um, and when I got to Atlanta, I had to change everything. I had to change my diet. I had to stop drinking. and the processed foods and stuff like that. And then I got back into my way of living again, and I ballooned up to like 260, and I've just been kind of going back and forth. But now I'm a solid 202, and I'm not where I want to be at, but I'm very happy that I'm not where I was,
Right, right.
and you know what I'm saying? Like I have to look at it like that.
It's hard to make lifestyle changes like that. So, man, big salute
Yeah.
to you, man, because that's a
Thank you,
really
bro.
difficult thing.
It isn't when you have things to live for. I
That's
got
true.
some beautiful
That's
children
true.
to live for. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but thank you.
Yeah. So in 2013, you end up going back to Aftermath for the Compton
Yeah,
album around then.
yeah, yeah.
So you end up doing 6 joints on there, right? The intro, Loose Cannons, Issues, Deep Water, One Shot, One Kill, and Medicine Man. What was it like working on that project?
Well, first and foremost, shout out to the ICU and Dre for allowing me to come back in the door and allowing me to be a part of the team. This is no longer me being signed as a producer. It was the most uncomfortable but rewarding experience I've ever had in my life and at Aftermath. Saying that to say it wasn't me sitting in the studio by myself trying to forge a sound and make these beats. Now I'm sitting with my brothers in the ICU, and we're trying to figure out, what direction we're going with Dre at the helm. This was the first time that I worked with him and not for him. And so it was just an amazing thing. He started to push me into ways that I never thought that I could be pushed. It was the best experience. I mean, I know that people are still trying to understand where we were artistically with the album, but I think that it was creative, and I think that where we were as men, it was indicative of the time, and it made sense.
Was this the start of the ICU? Because this was
Yes.
okay, got you. And who is in the ICU? Dem joints, you.
Well, this is a different season of ICU. So when
Got
we
you.
first got started, that's why I don't think that Drake put out the name too soon. When I first came to work with Dre, he was talking about calling it the ICU. And it was myself, Kurt Chambers, Andre Brissett, um, Theron Feemster, the world knows him as nephew, and Trevor Lawrence Jr., and Dre at the helm. And so that's how we were getting together and making records. That's literally what we were doing day in and day out. And that's what I knew to be the ICU. And then as time went on after the project, um, thank thank God I'm still here. But now, now that the seats changed, and now it's we brought in Bluetooth Eric Griggs. Um, he's amazing, multi instrumentalist and producer himself. David Balfour, who goes by Preach, amazing producer, instrumentalist. Fred Reck, who's a legend in his own right, and Dem Joints and myself, and then Dre at the helm. But the ICU is a little bit bigger than just the producers, because we also have a team of engineers that have been rocking with us. We also have a team of writers that have been rocking with us. So whatever Dre says the ICU is, that's the ICU. I'm just part of it.
Got you. And you said at that time, working on the Compton album, it was a little uncomfortable for you because that was the first time you did collaborations, right? Where you were like,
Yeah.
you guys are piecing everything together, working off of each other's vibe and everything. And there's going to be some ego, there's going to be some little personality, little nuances that make it a little harder to put things together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I even had to check my own, um, because I'm so used to going in the studio by myself. And if it doesn't go a certain way or a certain speed or a certain vibe that I have, maybe by myself, my ego, my pride would jump up. So I had to learn how to be of service and realize that this wasn't my thing. This is Dre's thing, and I'm playing a part. I'm here for support. Fred just did a amazing interview talking about his legacy, but he speaks about the ICU, and we're really there just to support Dre. You know, we're the
Right.
orchestra, and he's the maestro. So
So a lot of people were critical of that album, the Compton album, right? They were like, "Oh, it's not like 2001 and all that." How did you feel about that when that criticism came in?
I feel about that criticism just like I feel about all criticism, even the criticism that Kendrick's getting for his halftime show. Everyone's allowed to have their opinions. Everyone's allowed to feel what they feel. When you voice it like it's law, it doesn't compute.
Right.
This is art. I'm allowed to create whatever art I feel. I am not pigeonholed or put in a box, and you cannot pigeonhole or put me in a box. So if I choose to do something, I'm going to do it how I feel. Dre is the biggest teacher of that. He doesn't want to do what he's already done. He doesn't want to be a rerun. And I appreciate him for teaching me that moments are smaller than events. It's bigger to have an event, to wield up and make something that's going to be spoken about and lived over and over again by making an event than making a moment. And even if it's infamy or famous, no matter what they're talking about it. And my hats off to everybody that did listen and support us through our creative moments. Like we create, we're creators. And I appreciate Dre for giving us no boundaries. We're allowed to create what we want, and he's allowed to create what he wants.
Hmm. It's kind of one of those situations where it's like, if you want my old shit, go listen to my old shit. Like, I'm headed in a new
That's
direction, like,
that's
basically.
literally I couldn't have said it better. That's literally what it is, bro. If you want to hear those old records, go listen to those old records.
Right. I think that what it is like, people forget that nostalgia is such a big part of it, right? Like, I can't replicate where you were at in your life when you heard that record and give you that same feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so different. You're gonna be, well, I mean, what 2001 was in '99, and you
Right.
2015 is Compton. It's like 15-year difference. I can't replicate that
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. And it's not even replicating, like you said, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. It's growth.
Right.
I'm not where I was. It's not even about replicating. I'm just not where I was. So the life experiences that I've had for the past 14, 15 years, yeah, I'm going to sound different. I'm going to be different. I'm going to do different. You know what I'm saying? This is not like, okay, I'm going to keep talking about the hood. I don't live in the hood. I'm not going to talk about lowriders. I don't ride low. You know what I'm saying? So like these things, like these are ways that Dre is like, yo, they need to understand, like we're growing up. If you're still doing the same old thing, that's okay. That's you, but that's not me. I'm doing new things. And I want you to, if you want to go on the ride with me, let's ride. But if not, you know, you don't have to.
One thing I would really love to hear your take on is a beat maker versus a producer, because people are so critical of Dre at times because they're like, "Oh, he doesn't really make all the beats," and but he's like the one that's putting it all together as his vision. Like you were saying, he's the maestro leading the orchestra, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
telling you, "Hey,
Yeah.
do this part here, do this," and people are so critical, like, because he has the bigger name, that it's on the credit, that it's going to show his name before anybody else's. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you've heard the criticism before.
Of course. Of course. A producer didn't even have to play an instrument on the album. Quincy Jones produced all of Thriller, didn't play one instrument on there,
Right.
but he charted and he directed and he made that record sound the way it sounded so that it was cohesive. The thing that Dre does is what true producing is. It's what I've always known my father to do. It's always what I've known, Rod Temperton and real producers that saw projects all the way through to make sure that they were cohesive. Now, when it comes down to it, Drake can have the ICU with him, or he can rock. If you look at Missionary, he has various producers that he's produced with, but the album sounds like one unit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get wrapped up into what people think. There is a direct definition of producing. So if you want to fight it, fight the people that define what producing is, and don't fight me. But I believe that, a beat maker knows how to make a beat, and then they leave it to a producer to take it the rest of the way for the song to come together. Um, I used to grit my teeth and bear saying that, people like DJ Khaled were producers, but Khaled is a producer. He knows how to put things together and put together a cohesive project. And that's really part of production.
Mm-hmm. So at one point in 2017, you made waves when you posted a picture of a UPS vest that said seasonal helper. And you basically said music was your only plan, but when unforeseen circumstances happen, you got to do what you got to do. Then you went
Yeah.
live and clarified what the post meant, right? So
Yeah.
what happened exactly?
Well, I left at the height of my career. I left Aftermath. Like I said, the phone stopped ringing. In Atlanta, a lot of the guys that I know out there, they were already clicked up. They were already, running with their teams. So I wasn't really assimilating out there, and I wasn't gelled in with anybody. So I I got married in 2010, and I couldn't show my now ex-wife, I couldn't show her then that I was just going to sit on the couch and wait for, money and opportunities to show up at my front door. I didn't want her to worry, and I didn't really know what to do at the moment, but I just knew I couldn't sit on the couch. So I jumped up and I got a job. I got a couple of jobs. I was doing some home remodeling with a friend of mine for a while. And then I did that UPS thing just so I can, like, if it did come down to it and I did have to uh, get a 9 to 5, I just had to get back into it. And the funny thing about it is, I worked with two of the greatest bosses ever. And, my boss in the home remodeling and the people that I was working with at UPS, they all were like, "Why are you here? Go back and make music. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be making music." They always would let me leave early and go back home and make music every time. And because of them, I went back, and it's been amazing.
So it was an inspirational post talking about where you came from it, and people took it the wrong way, basically thinking that in 2017 you were getting a UPS job at that time, basically.
No, they were looking at it the way they chose to look at it, because instead of reading it, because just like you did, you read the comment, right?
Right.
The first thing they wanted to do was make it to where Dre was a bad guy.
Right.
Dre has him over there, he's broke and he's blah blah blah. No, I just don't want to sit around and be lazy. I got a job. And the funny thing about it is, when I put that out, I was sitting right next to Dre when I saw that it went viral. I've never gone viral in my career. I went viral. And I'm sitting next to Dre and I'm like, "Bro, I didn't mean this in any." He was like, "I know that, man. I know that." He was like, "You just got to be careful of how you put things out, because no matter how you think you're speaking proper English, they're going to take what they can take from it and spin it."
Mm.
And from that point on, like, I was just like, you know what? I need to be more private with my private life. Like, this was really a shout out. If you look at the whole comment, it was a shout out to my bosses. It was a shout out to the experience and the fact that, you know, from the ashes comes the phoenix. You know what I'm saying? And I was in my phoenix mode. So that's really what it was.
Right, because you were saying that like people never covered you, people never interviewed you or anything, but then all of a sudden they decided to do that. Like you were saying, like Vlad and all these other people were doing
Yeah.
that.
My name was I was trending on Twitter. I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in my life, bro.
Hmm.
And it was for negative. It was something I never even said. I never said anything negative. Never said I was broke. Never said I was. I just said I was working, then doing seasonal work over there, and they ran with it.
And it's crazy because you were saying how much those jobs actually taught you about yourself, right? Do you feel
Yes,
like at
sir.
that time you were searching for your identity again and you kind of just went through this journey?
Yeah, yeah. I think that I was looking for the part of me that has to be a provider no matter what.
Mhm.
The part of me that if it all falls apart, if it all falls down, can I get up? Will I get up? How can I get up? And what am I willing to do um, within the hope and faith and belief system of my family and everything? Like I really had to test my own fabric, and it showed me what I was willing to do. That was the most humbling experience of my life. Because what if I went to when I went into the interview process, there was a bunch of people in there. What if somebody was like, "Dude, you're focused from Aftermath. I can't believe you're here," and this and that, and it could have been that. I didn't care. The only thing that was at the forefront of my mind was my family and making sure that they knew Dad's going to do whatever he has to do to make sure that we're okay, and he's
Right.
willing to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it really did show the direct fabric that I'm cut from. My dad was a great provider. He was a great provider and he would work his ass off. And I was just not going to sit around and wait for shit to happen for me at all.
And I think that that was a good lesson for people trying to go into a field that is unorthodox, right? Because like when you punch the clock and you get paid hourly, you're seeing the fruits of that labor kind of like add up immediately. But when you're a producer or something like that, you give the beat, they may not use it. You know, like there's a lot of different things that go into it, and success is just not always a straight shot up. It's not keep on going. You know, there's going to be
Oh, it
ups
never
and
is.
downs.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to
Yeah.
be different
Yeah.
things like that. And I think that, you know, your story helps show people that just because you might be at a downtime doesn't mean that you can't rise again, right? It doesn't mean you can't,
Yes,
in
sir.
the end, be
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So in 2020, you end up producing the record "She Loves Me" by Eminem for his "Music to Be Murdered By," right?
Mhm.
His album, the side B. How did that come about?
I think that we were on a Hawaii trip. Dre will occasionally take the ICU out of California so that we can get different influences and this was one of the Hawaii trips. I think that we were just making beats, and that was one of the beats that we made as the ICU. And it was really great that it showed up on that album. Um, I didn't think it cut through. But of course, we tried to do it for the first album, the actual music to be murdered by. But the fact that he put out the B sides, that was great. But yeah, that was the ICU again. That was Trev and Bluetooth and that was that era.
So were you in the studio with M when he put down the vocals, or this was just like something that he picked
No,
up? Gotcha. Okay.
no, yeah, yeah. He had the beat because I know like with and it's no secret. I think M really covets the way that he gets down in the studio and he does his stuff in Detroit. So a
Right.
lot of that, even if he comes out to LA, he has his way that he works and he works by himself with his engineer or whatever. And, it's not a room full of people. We're not just sitting there watching him cut.
Hmm. And you worked with him on Medicine Man off of the Compton album, right? Like, because he was on that record,
hmm
but he
I
didn't
worked
lay the
with, it was
vocals.
joints. Yeah. hmm
Was he there with you? I mean, were you there when he laid the vocals for that one, or no?
No. So
Okay.
the original song, produced by Dre and them joints, and the beat kept going. And Dre said that M said he wants his stuff to be a little bit more thematic He wanted it more dramatic. He wanted it more cinematic. He wanted, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I've been working with Joints for a long time, and I was like, Joints, man, let me just get in there. Let me try something, and let's see if I can orchestrate something, and then put your drums under it or whatever, blah blah blah. So I had started doing the piano stuff. So we broke the whole beat down, and I'm doing the piano, staying in the same key. Then I do the strings, and I just orchestrated the part, and then Joints took it the rest of the way. So when M heard that, he redid a whole nother verse. I
Wow.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, when Medicine Man was first presented with an Eminem verse, if I'm not mistaken, them joints had an acapella of an Eminem verse from a song that never came out, and he put it in that space. And so when we orchestrated it, M did a whole verse dedicated to the song, and he did that in Detroit and sent it back to us.
Dang, that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
did you ever produce any other tracks for M that didn't make it to an album?
Years and years of them.
Years ago.
Years, yeah. But they never really got to him. Like there was, I did a song called "By My Side" on the Re-Up album with Stat Quo, and
Right,
I
right.
think that yeah, I was so horse blinders with Detox that a lot of my beats were just going to Dre. So if they went anywhere else, it was Dre passing them out. I wasn't making beats for Eminem and the Eminem album, or the Marshall Mathers album. I was literally just making records for Detox, and that was pretty much my whole career from when I signed to 2008.
And you've been on record as saying that Eminem is one of your favorite rappers, right? What do you think
Yes,
about when people say like black people don't listen to Eminem?
that's their opinion, and there's nothing wrong with it. They can do what they want, but I listen to Eminem. That's what I got.
That's what you got.
That's what I got.
What do you think happened with artists like Bishop Lamont, Stat Quo, Joel Ortiz, Rakim, and other people that were on Aftermath that it didn't end up working out for them?
I think everything has its time and has its place. And if the time and the place don't line up, it doesn't line up. And, I'm still in contact with Bishop. That's my bro. Um,
You probably did a lot
Rakim
of
is,
records for him, huh?
oh
Because
my
he was
God. I
there
mean,
for a while.
yeah. I mean, me and Bishop were literally in the studio, I think, for almost 2 years straight, keep it a buck. And, that's literally my cohort when I was rocking over at Can Am. So, but when we did Feel on It, and that record had that, I think it was a Bohemian, a Hungarian, um, the vocal sample that everybody's sampling now. We were the first to put it out. We were the first to do it. You know what I'm saying? So we knew that we were doing something special. We knew we were doing something different, but the time and the place just weren't lined up. It wasn't our time yet.
And he was like one of the few people that were able to walk away with like thousands of records basically from Aftermath. I remember people saying that like when he left, like Dre let him leave with like a bunch of records because of the time that he put in.
Maybe. I mean, that's an urban legend. I would have to call. Now you're gonna make me call Bishop like you got 1,000 records, bro. You ain't played me one, man. What are we doing? Yeah.
But did you work closely with like Stat Quo?
Stat is my guy too. And Stat and I both lived in Atlanta at the same time. So Stat would come through the crib, and we would cut records there. That's why we have a good few records on his mixtapes and stuff. But I think that for Stat it was a different story because Stat is such a business mogul, and his whole trajectory went someplace else. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, timing and the right time and the right place. And I think that, for what he was doing as far as a rapper was concerned, he saw the bigger picture. And, I know that he's been quite successful on his next journey. You know what I'm saying? Being a manager and having the company that he
Right.
has. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's crazy, man. What about Rakim?
Rakim is the god.
Yeah, definitely.
I think again, right time, right place, and we had a lot of people signed on our roster. I wouldn't be able to answer to Rakim. That part is that's still unclear to me. I mean, we had Raekwon at one time. We had you know a bunch of newly signed people. Shanta, we had Brooklyn, we had Joe Beast, we had like Smooth Hurts, we've
Right.
had artists, like we've had rosters. So I just think it's just timing, and
But you
if there
produced for
wasn't,
Rakim too? Did you have any records for him?
I don't know. We've never been in the studio together, and I don't think that he got one on my beats. No, I don't think
Mm.
so. Well, I've never heard it, so no.
So February 23rd, 2022, you released the project dot dot dot,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
The last song on the project makes me cry every time I listen to that record, bro.
yeah, I
On
got over that a little bit. Yeah, I had to get over that part. Therapy definitely helped me with that. But go ahead, I'm listening.
right. On June 28th, 2020, you ended up losing your son and he was named after you. So he was the third, right? So you guys called him
Yes,
Trey.
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry for your loss, man. Like the record says it all that a parent should never have to bury their child,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um if I'm not mistaken, he was killed in a drunk driving situation.
Yes, yes. They were hit head on by a drunk driver. He was in Arkansas. He was staying with his grandmother at the time. And, they said he was coming home from work, I believe. It was like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And drunk driver hit him head on. He was in the passenger side. They said he was asleep. And the drunk driver was driving a Silverado. My son had a Honda Civic. So you can just um, understand how mangled that whole entire thing was. There were three people in the car. The driver had to be cut out. He was pronounced dead at the scene. They had to cut out the kid in the back of the car, and he, thank God, he's still alive. But he had to go through a lot to get back to life. And my son was, yeah, it was bad. So, um, going through that and in that moment and finally getting, I think it was almost 2 years it took us to, or almost a year and a half to get the vindication and justice served. The guy serving 50 years, and I had to go out there and for the trial. It was surreal. It was surreal. But I keep him with me all the time. My baby's always with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that post that you put up on Instagram when you said that, he would be 27 on that day. And just like the video montage that you had put up was, man, you just can't put words to describe that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's something that you could ever go get over, obviously, because it's like you think about these different times in life and you wonder like where they would be at that time, what they
Yeah.
would be experiencing. And I
Yeah.
know that you were strong enough to go to therapy and seek help, but um, it still doesn't change things or doesn't fix it, in general as a
Yeah,
whole.
it's not and you know what, and I appreciate everything you're saying, and you're right. It's not going to change it. It doesn't fix it, but it fortifies you and strengthens you if you do the work to be able
Hmm.
to deal with it. And I appreciate my therapist. Big shout out to Dr. April. My therapist does not lick my wounds with me. She does not give me band-aids to put on cuts. She does not tell me that it's going to be all right. We deal with things and we look at them head on with clear eyes. And man, my baby's gone. My
Wow.
baby's gone. But I'm here, I'm alive, and he has four siblings that I have to take care of. And he has now, a niece. I have a granddaughter, and his legacy will forever live on through me and his siblings. So it now it powers me, it fuels me. I do things because I want my father to be proud of me, but now I want my son to be proud of me. And I'm the only Bernard left. My dad was Bernard, I'm Bernard Jr., and he was the third. I'm the only one left. There's
Hmm.
no junior and there is no third and there is no senior. I'm the only one left. So just looking at it like that, it's like, yeah, I definitely get up and I have a different purpose and I have a different fuel.
I know on the record that you had said that you guys were experiencing some disagreements at the time that you never got to resolve. And it's kind of
Yeah,
similar in the situation with you and your father that you guys never got to
literally.
resolve. Yeah, some
Yeah,
of those things. Do you think about those parallels or have you ever?
of course, of course, of course. But the thing about it is, you know, I was Trey to my father. Trey was establishing himself as a man, and he was making some decisions that I might not have rocked with. You know what I'm saying? So me trying to be his father and trying to steer him in the right direction, but he wants to go his own direction. Now it made me understand why my father was so adamant about me not going in certain directions. And so it gave me clarity, but it doesn't negate the fact that I still lost my son. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? It doesn't give me, any solace in the fact that I lost my father, but it makes things clearer. Why out of both situations I'm the only one still standing and I'm still living, I don't know, but God bless, and I just got to keep moving with purpose, and I have to do better. I have to show up different for, his siblings. I have to make sure that I'm a little bit more assertive, because if I was a little bit stronger for my son, I don't think my son would be dead. But I'm not going to put myself in that rabbit hole and talk about what if, because I can't, I'm not going to be able to play that scenario. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right,
like, why am I
right.
going to drive myself crazy with that? So it's like, I got to do better with who's here. And I don't want them to ever forget him. And I'm never going to make, me look perfect. We had a falling out. It doesn't mean that we hated each other. We loved each other. And that was my son. And, I missed him. I miss
Yeah.
him every day, every day.
And rest in peace to both of them, man.
Thank you.
It's interesting because you were saying like that situation helped you understand your father more. How do you think that your father influenced you as a parent, the way that you parent?
uh, the funny thing about it is the only way my father influenced me as a parent is by being a provider. It's it was such a huge thing for me, and it goes back to what you were saying. You constantly think about, okay, I need to make sure that I can get this for my kids. I can provide for my kids. I can provide for my wife if you have one, or I can provide. I got to be able to pay the bills. I got to be able. So he showed me it's not sleeping. It's being uncomfortable. It's doing things that you may not know how to do, but doing them, getting it done, and being the best at it. And so his work ethic was huge, and I definitely imprinted that on my life. Um, but being a daddy is way more important in this day and age than being a father. It's easy to turn around. Well, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier to figure out how to make money and throw money at it than it is to give time, and actually real time. Like, I'm not here because I have to be. I'm here because I want to be. And you let me know what you need from me, baby. I'm here. And that's the important part. That's the part that shifts every child. That's the part that all adults are like, well, my father was never here or my mother was never. Why? It's time. It has nothing to do with anything else. So
Yeah, man. In the words of the late Nipsey Hussle, he said that kids spell love by Time.
Yeah,
And
1000%.
I think that as parents, everybody has like their traumas, their childhood traumas, and everything, right? But when you become a parent, there's no excuses. Like you have to show up for your kids.
You have no choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Whew, man. Went a little
yeah. This
deep
is
on that one,
probably. I was about to say this is the deepest interview I've ever done. Like, my God, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I told you I did my research, man.
I know. My God.
So in 2022, right, the game
Mhm.
said Kanye has done more in the last 2 weeks than Dr. Dre did his entire career. In the comment section of a diverse mentality Instagram post, you wrote, "Really?" When someone commented, "And this is why he wasn't at the Super Bowl," you replied, "Exactly. Can't depend on an unstable cat for something as epic as that." What were you feeling like when you saw that? Because I'm sure you got to witness all the things that Dre helped do for his career. So it's like a insult.
No, it's directly an insult.
Yeah.
Like I said, Dre is my big brother. Dre is someone I look up to. He's my mentor. He's my teacher. He's my family. I thought Game was family. But when you can look at someone that helped make you and you piss on him, you're not just hurting him. And it may not have affected him, but it affected me. It
Mm.
affected me. And there was nothing cool about it. There was not like we actually saw each other after that. And I just asked him, and if Game ever, wants to go face to face, and I'll bring it up. He was at Joey's, and I walked in, and he was sitting in a booth, and I walked up, and we made a couple jokes, and he was very cool. But I was like, "Are you and Dre good?" Especially after that, "Are you and Dre good?" I didn't have to show up with goons. I don't. I was with my best friend, but I asked him. I was like, "Are y'all good?" Because that wasn't cool. That wasn't cool. And he was like, "Yeah, I gave him a call and blah, blah, blah." And anybody that talks about Dre, talks about my brothers in the ICU, talks about my family, I have ways I feel and I have things I want to say. I just don't want to get so deep into it because people don't know how to keep things cool. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? All of a sudden you're getting shot at, or people want to turn around and jump you and show up at places that you are with a bunch of goons. And I'm not that guy. We can be adult and still have a conversation about things. And I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to. I don't care how many records we did. I don't agree with you. I don't. Because if you weren't with Dr. Dre, you wouldn't have met Kanye. So you might want to rethink that. That's how I felt.
Yeah, because in the past you've said Game was your guy, you know what I mean? But he did go on to say crazy stuff like Dre never gave him a beat, he never had Dre on a record, and it was just like things that you could find from the leak songs and everything like that. That I mean, you can rebuke all that, you know what I mean? Like you can like it was crazy to hear him say those things when he was going on that interview tour basically for that Drillmatic album, when he was saying
Right.
a lot of stuff about Dre that was really disrespectful. And I think that all fans were really like disturbed by that. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we watched it. We watched him in his
Yeah.
career.
You have to look at the fact that Game is I'm sorry, excuse me. Game is a little bit of a hybrid. He has old school in him, but he also has young school in him. And as time progresses, infamy became greater than being famous. So if you get the world talking and you put out an album, you're your best billboard. Everybody's going to want to listen to the album to see if you're dissing Dre, to see
Right.
if you're this, you know what I'm saying? So he really leaned off of that. And then I think later on he was someplace being apologetic and Dre's this and Dre's that, and he's the greatest and blah, blah, blah. And then he does it again or whatever. Unfortunately, infamy is way more popular than being famous. And these kids will say whatever they have to say to get eyes on them. Look what Kanye's doing. The same person that he was talking about, Kanye put out a t-shirt with a swastika on it,
Right.
and watch him put out an album soon. You know what I'm saying? Like it's infamy. You want to be bigger than life in a moment, and it's just a moment. It's a moment, and you're selling yourself short for a moment instead of being part of an event. Go ahead.
I think that that's what people were upset about with like the whole Black Slim Shady thing, him dissing Eminem, because like all his career he did nothing but commend Eminem and said that he was the best and he would never want to battle him, you know, and it was like everybody I think can agree that Game is a great rapper. He can rap his ass off, right? But throughout his career, people have been turned off by some of the antics that he's done. And like you said, the going back and forth, saying one thing 1 minute, then like changing it around. That's why 50 never wanted to kind of resolve things, because 1 minute he was saying fuck G Unit, then he said, "Oh, I want a G Unit reunion," and it's really hard to trust somebody like that.
How do you lean on a rickety pillar? If it's unstable, you're not going to lean on it, and that's just fact. It's I'm not going to put my weight on something that's not showing me it's going to stand the test of time, and that's just fact.
Right. And you actually worked with him on the Born to Rap album too, on the I didn't want to write this song, right? With Marsha, that you
Well,
produced that.
I worked with Marsha.
Okay.
Marsha,
So then she gave
yeah,
that record to Game.
yes,
Got
yes, I
you.
worked with
Okay.
Marsha. This was actually Marsha was the one that produced the record, and then I produced for her. She wanted to flip that sample. She had the whole verse and chorus and all that stuff. She had all that stuff written, and
Mm,
she was like, "I just need you to build it." Like it was around the same time that we did this project, Nyla, and so I was already orchestrating stuff for her, and she just wanted me to orchestrate it and build it out for her. And I thought that the simplicity of my approach would just kind of make it sound like she's angelically singing. You know what I'm saying? So I made her the main focal point of the record. And even back then when it came out, I was correcting a lot of people that were posting that I produced it. I was like, I didn't produce that. Marsha produced it, and I helped produce what Marsha needed me to produce. But that's Marsha's
got you.
production. Yeah.
So you
Big shout out,
denied.
says. Big shout out. No, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What'd you say?
No, just shouting out Marsha. That's it. Shout out to my
Yeah,
sister.
it's amazing, beautiful, man. She's just, whoo, she's just such
Yeah.
a talent. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
she's, yeah.
Yeah.
So you, the Nine Porter, and Dem Joints formed a group called Read the PDF, right?
Yes. Yes.
How did that come about?
In 2020, when the world shut down, it was something that I really wanted to. I wanted to work with Porter first. I wanted to do a project with him. I was like, we're both producers. We both sing. We both rap. And then, I started to build rapport with Joints, and I loved what he was doing. So when we were shut up in the house, I'm like, let's do a record together. Let's just do a record. And it was a record that we did. It was me, Dem Joints, and a singer, a phenomenal singer by the name of Ashley J. And we did "Don't Worry, Be Happy." Excuse me, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And I kind of loosely just alluded to it as far as the melody was concerned for the hook. That's what Ashley was singing, but it really was just talking about the day and times of being a co father and in the house, and like we would jump in the car and it'd be an outing going to to the supermarket, but everybody's masked up and stuff like that. So we did that, and I loved the way it felt. Then the next record we did was Up, and after I did that, we put I sent it to Porter, and I was like, it'd be really dope if I produce my part, you produce your part, and Porter, you produce your part, but it's one record. And we
Mm,
we did it with Up, and we loved it, and so we kept going. So it was really, I wanted to lock in with my bros, and it came together really quick. Like it was just an idea that I had during COVID.
And then how much work have you guys done since then?
We have a deluxe version that will be coming out soon. We just had a meeting with an amazing distribution company. I'm just going to keep it under wraps until we lock in, but we have the deluxe version coming out soon. It has two extra songs on it. It may be three by the time we do it. We don't know yet, but um, we're still working. It's going to be way bigger than what I originally planned for it to be because we're talking about actually producing together as read the PDF and doing more of what we do as PDF for other artists. So we're looking
Wow.
forward to it. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
And that's amazing, man, because like Denine is he's a beast too. Like, you
Yeah,
know what I
Denon is
mean? Like
crazy. He's crazy.
yeah, he's crazy with it. And them joints, man, like I see on Instagram where he pulls up those like A or B kind of things, the way that
Yes,
he flips.
sir.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
man.
And he
He's a
makes
monster
those
with
like
it.
it, he makes those in like split seconds. Both of
It
those
looks
guys
like
are
it's nothing to him.
it's
Like it's like
nothing. It's nothing. They actually are the best partners and the worst competition I have in my life because it's it's nothing to them. Like they literally just go in
right.
and start knocking this stuff out. And I'm like, wait, wait, wait. My brain is trying to wrap, I need to wrap my brain around this stuff. But it's amazing. It's amazing to work with them.
Right. So you worked on Snoop's newest album, Missionary, right? You worked with
Yeah.
my bro Khan. Shout out to Khan. That's my guy right there, man.
That's what's up.
Yo,
Yeah.
he's amazing, bro. Like I've been supporting him for so many years. Like his music is just ridiculous. I'm so glad that he's finally getting that look. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like
Yes.
he deserves it. And
PANDA. Yeah.
I listening to the Snoop album, I could tell some of the rhyme patterns, little stuff here and there. I could tell. Like, I was like, yo, that's my guy right there, man.
Hmm.
But what was your most like memorable studio session and why?
Most memorable studio session. I think that there are two. We were doing um there's a part in the song called Fire, and Fred Reck had done kind of a traditional reggae introduction to the song. And Dre was like, man, I want to place this other places in the song. And it was me, him, Fred Reck, I think the engineers and maybe a couple other guys from the ICU, but it was such a moment because the room became this really crazy vibe. And because I came up on the East Coast, like, uh, running around in Uptown and stuff like that, you can hear reggae music everywhere. So I was just like, man, let's be unorthodox with it. And Dre was like, well, let me see what you got. You know what I'm saying? Because this is where I'm thinking. And so he allowed, all of us to have an input on that. And the vibe was so crazy, bro. It was so dope. And like we were all like jumping up and yeah, yeah. Like it was one of those moments. Like it was super dope, bro. Like that was crazy. And of course, um, when Dre hit the whole team and told us that he turned the album in, it was done. And,
Wow.
this is 3 or 4 years of work. Like this is everybody wants to take pot shots at us, but they don't understand that, there's 45, almost 50 records. And you just got a skim of what we did for the past 3, 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's a blessing
Yeah,
that
because
it
it was
got to come
supposed to
out.
come out previously, like the year before, right? They had been
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah. And it wasn't where anybody um the powers that be, they felt that we could keep going. We can find more. We can do more. And it's not out until it's out. And it's not done until it's done. So it was a great experience. Great experience. And it was the first time that, I got to fully help out in more ways than one. If you look at the album credits, I'm credited as an A&R. I help with the actual admin part of it, so I help get get information together with the general manager. Big shout out to Ashley Palmer Gilkey and Evan Walker. So I really felt like I was used more on this project, and it holds a near and dear place in my heart.
Mm-hmm. Man, my favorite song off the album is the Last Dance with Mary Jane because of the way that you guys flip that. And Snoop kills it, but when Jelly Roll comes on and starts singing, bro, that
It's
man was on
crazy.
fire.
Yes,
It's
sir.
crazy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So last year in 2024, right?
Hmm.
Chino XL passed away and you had a close relationship with him. You did two records, I believe, off of the Reconstruction album in 2012. Is
Way
that
more.
right?
Way
Way
more.
more?
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, what was, yeah, can you just talk about that relationship that you had with him?
Big shout out to the Barbosa family. Um, Tino was my brother, and it was because of Sway and King Tech. And so when I locked in with them in the Wake Up Show, um, a lot of my production was being utilized through King Tech and his relationships. That I've had records with Cam, West Coast Cam, and I did a song called I Don't Think So. And with Chino in the same realm, I did a record called Watch Closer. But if you go back during that time, we locked in on so many records. We actually just started working together and just finding that we were like minded, like spirited, like hearted. And there wasn't nothing I couldn't ask of Chino. Like Chino showed up on my projects for nothing. And so it was literally like, bro, let's just work. Like whatever you need from me, I'm here. I want to be your producer. And so we've done, on the Reconstruction, there's about 4 or 5 records on there. I did Latino Stand Up, I think Kings, The Rosary. Like there's so many records on that album. We did a whole project that I'm actually giving to the Barbosa family um, called The Secret. And I'm just trying to, get it properly put together so that I can give it to them. Um, and also I have verses from him from previous projects that I put out. So, is that's someone I honestly love, and he's shown me true brotherhood. And the way he went out, man, it broke my heart. I cried like a baby. I miss him terribly.
Yeah, when it first got announced, they didn't release the cause of death. When you
Yeah,
found out what was the cause, like, did you ever have conversations with him or see any signs that he was struggling like that?
that's not Chino. That's not how Chino works. And the funny thing about it is, and I don't want to go too deep with it. I can only go off of how Chino was with me. Me and Chino don't lie to each other. We never lied to each other. We don't do like there's ways like he can look at me and be like, "What's wrong?" Like, and I could do the same thing to him. So there was a long stint of time where he wouldn't let me see him. I
Mm.
we wouldn't connect, but he would hit me on Instagram and say, "We got to get up, OG." I'm like, "Wait, but okay, I'm here. Let's do this. Come through, or whatever." And he wouldn't he wouldn't want to be seen. And then when I found out how he passed away and why he passed away, it's like I get it. I
What's
get it.
crazy is that you saying that makes a lot of sense because my bro, Big Lou from Camden, New Jersey, right? He was signed to DJ K Slay. He had a relationship with Chino too, and he said that that's happened to him too. Like that,
Yeah,
Chino didn't talk to him at particular times. He could tell something was off, and then when
yeah,
Chino passed, it was like wow, like it kind of
yeah,
made sense. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Tino is not like that. He doesn't blubber about anything. He puts his feet to the grindstone. And he's like, "Yo, I need to go make this happen." And if he can't make it happen, he shuts down. He goes inward. Um, I wish I would have known.
Yeah. It kind of shows us that, like, as men, when we're being raised as boys, we're often told that, we can't share our emotions, our feelings and everything, right?
Yeah,
We as men show our emotions through anger instead of through tears, and it doesn't provide the same relief. So it makes it even more difficult to ask somebody for help as a man,
yeah, yeah,
and
1000%.
it's crazy, man, because I think that a lot of times, like, our women, they'll say things like, "Oh, he's closed off," or "He won't communicate," or these things. But like, when you look at how boys are raised to be a certain way, it's like it makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's not even just a matter of how we were raised, but then you got to look at the fact that if you tell the wrong person the wrong thing, they use it against you.
That's a fact.
If you're vulnerable, you know what I'm saying? You're vulnerable. I'm not even going to go super deep into it, but if you're vulnerable and you tell somebody, look, my hair is the source of my strength and she's Delilah and she cuts your hair off, like what? You know what I'm saying? Why did you use that against me? I'm being vulnerable to you because I loved you, because of, you know what I'm saying? So this is the first time in history, bro. I'm 52 years old, and this is the first time that, from 2020 up to 2025, that we've been talking about men and mental health. It was never that. It's get up and walk it off,
Right.
deal with it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta be strong. You gotta be the rock. You gotta be, bro. This is the first time.
Especially in minority communities, we're told, like, you put an
Yes.
H on it and you handle it. That's it. Like,
Yeah,
like,
that's it. That's
that's it.
it.
That's it.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, can you count how many times you seen your dad cry? Like, like, it's crazy. You don't.
The funny thing about it is I can count once.
Yeah, but
Only seen it once. And that's it.
yeah,
In
that's the
the
same
whole
thing.
time that he's been my father. Yeah, like one time. And it wasn't even like I was supposed to see it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
exactly.
yeah, you're right. Yes, sir.
One thing I really want to commend you on is the way that you treat people. You humanize people, and I see you're all about respect and being humble, right? Like, even in your approach to music, I've seen you say, like, you like to be in the studio with people so you can sense their energy that day and maybe what they're going through and help direct it. Where did you
Yes, sir.
learn, like, from, as far as treating people that way? Because, you've said that you like to speak to people the way that you want to be spoken to.
Of course. I mean, as a number one, I appreciate being appreciated. Um, but growing up again with my mother and the religious background, that's definitely one of the golden rules. And then just humanity, bro. I want to be treated how I treat people. I'm a big lover, and when I say lover, like literally, my heart is just constantly for people. I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure you're good. I think that a lot of my career I did behind the scenes because I didn't want my face to be plastered everywhere to where I couldn't go someplace and just be who I want to be in that moment. I
Hmm.
want to be a person. I want to be acknowledged as a human being. And if I want to show up for my homegirl or homeboy and I'm just like, bro, if you need me to help you move, let's move. And I'm not being mauled by cameras and paparazzi and this and that. Like, I love my life. I love the way that my life is set up. So I believe that, if I authentically show up at 110% and you show up at 110%, then that synergy and that bond is beautiful. And unfortunately, I just did a post about this and it doesn't work all the time like that. If you're a giver like I am and I'm a servant at heart, when you serve, takers will take.
Right.
And sometimes they just don't know how to give back. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back even to the trauma of, the mental health thing. So, I just try to show up the way that I would want people to show up for me. I know how it felt coming up and just wanting people to be human. And I'm like, man, if I get there, I'm not gonna turn around and be like them. I want to be what I would love to see on the other side of that.
How difficult is that in this industry where, like, nothing is what it seems, right? There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. People say they'll do things for you, they don't. And it's just like, it's a lot of shadiness.
Yeah. It's not hard. I mean, the thing that makes it hard is if your intentions or your ulterior motive is based on the bag
Mm,
and being famous and being known and being like all of those things are tangible, and I get it, but you have to sell something to get something. You have no choice. You're going to have to let go of some integrity. You're going to have to let go of and to ascend to a place that of superstardom, a lot of those people had to sacrifice themselves. You sacrifice freedom. Just what if you want to go to Walmart? It's something small, but the freedom to and pliability to move around, you don't have that anymore.
right.
What if you want to fall in love with somebody and they break your heart? Now the whole world has to know it. You don't have that pliability of being private anymore. It's unfortunate. So you sell something to get something, and I really didn't want to sell anything. I didn't want to sell my soul. I didn't want to sell my privacy. I didn't want to sell my kids. I didn't want to sell, like, I really love the fact that I was able to do all of this. And a lot of people didn't even know what I looked like until recent, bro.
Yeah.
Dre talked about me in the source and he just said my name. There was no picture. There was no picture. And thank God I was able to make a career off of that. You know what I'm saying? But keeping it a buck, like, I don't want to just be about the bag. This is how I feed my family, yes, but this is not what it's all about. This is my passion.
Yeah. All right, Focus. I just want to thank you for your time, man. Is there anything else you want to say to the people before we go ahead and wrap it up?
Oh man. Well, thank each and every one of you for supporting me, supporting Aftermath. Um, there will be more in the future. Look out for Read the PDF. If you ever need me, you can hit me up on Instagram and only Instagram, focus the number 3 DOTS. And I appreciate you, Panda. I really do. This was a really dope interview. I appreciate that.
Thanks, man.